Hello, my name is Donald Kiernan, but I go by DJ, and I'm here to talk about economic sanctions for my U.S. foreign policy class. Sanctions are basically economic measures intended to either pressure or punish bad actors. So this could be countries, this could be certain groups, this could be individuals, basically anybody who goes against your country's values or anything. So these could be things such as like cutting off trade, cutting off weapons, cutting off certain aids that we give to other countries. A lot of times governments use these tactics to pressure another government into stopping them from doing something that they don't like. Uh, it's something to show that a country disapproves of what they're doing, but it's not taking any military action. So it's got a little risk. Basically, I feel like the U.S. imposes sanctions a lot nowadays. We hear about this. We're imposing sanctions on Russia, Venezuela. We've got many different sanctions actually going on right now, and I feel like it's really not doing so much. So, anyways, let's get it up into this pop-up case. Today, we're going to look at how Berelia has been locked into a stagnant territorial dispute with its neighbors Yuzhnia for decades. This week's reports emerged that Berelia has just begun a large-scale offensive to seize the disputed territory. Berelia is far larger than Yuzhnia and has a sizable and advanced military. With international condemnations going ignored and any form of military intervention posing immense risk, the U.S. president has convened the National Security Council to discuss the possibility of enacting sanctions on Berelia. So basically, there's three different ways that we've come up, or that the papers come up with, that we're going to be looking at. And first, the policy option is enact broad sanctions on large portions of Berelia's economy. The second one is enact targeted sanctions on individuals in the Brazilian government or military. And the third one is to enact no sanctions. So basically, I'm going to list three positives for each policy option and then kind of discuss where I feel after that. So for number one, I feel like it sends a strong message of disapproval from the US. It shows that we're going to basically put our democratic values above all. It doesn't matter if we're working with you or not. We're going to do what we believe is right, and we're going to stand up for what we believe is right. Second reason would be to show that, or it would be that it takes the military actually out of Yuzhnia. So by imposing these sanctions, it might actually get Yuzhnia or Berelia to stop invading and maybe look at a more peaceful option of going through all these things. Number three would be that maybe the government would start looking at the leadership, and maybe people will actually find someone else to go in charge of the country so that they start looking at things a little differently and they actually avoid this conflict altogether. I found for number two, this option still shows that the U.S. disapproves of this, so they're still putting some sanctions on this. It doesn't hurt the U.S. businesses as much as number one, and it doesn't really intervene with the people there as much, so it's still keeping people happy. Uh, it's staying out of too much of a risk, but it's still showing that the U.S. doesn't like this. It's not staying out of it because it's still holding up the democratic values, but it's also not going too far in. For number three, no sanctions. This would basically keep U.S. businesses strong and help their ties with Berelia stay strong. It wouldn't harm any of the citizens in Berelia, so the people there wouldn't start to hate Americans. And who knows, maybe in the future their military will be allied to the U.S. because we obviously didn't press any sanctions, we didn't touch them, didn't hurt them, so we could still keep them as a strong ally, and they're not going to go over to any of our adversaries. After reading through all these, I originally chose number one because I felt like the U.S. should be strong and not really let anybody push them over. But after really reading this multiple times and really looking at the options, I felt like I could just found more positives for option number three than really any other one. I felt like it was a lot easier to find three positives for option number three than it was for the other two. For the first one, I feel like, okay, yeah, it's showing our democratic values, but we're also tearing down a lot of US businesses and we're hurting the people in the country. So we're not just hurting the government, we're hurting all the people that are living there too. we're hurting their daily life. I mean, imagine if a country raised the prices on US. I mean, we could currently see that happening right now, and obviously it sucks. So we're gonna make a bunch of people hate the US, and the own US people and their US businesses are gonna start to hate us. So I feel like it's just pushing a little bit too hard. And the second option, I just feel like you're either all in or you're all out. And the second option is kind of like the US is saying, oh, okay, maybe we'll kind of go in there, but they're not actually getting their hands dirty, and they're kind of just trying to be a little nice guy. And I don't think a government would appreciate that because you're still showing signs of disapproval. So I feel like they'll still be pretty upset with the US. So the whole point of like not, I mean, putting harsh sanctions on them was that they wouldn't be mad at the US, but I feel like they're still going to be mad at the US because they're still putting some type of sanctions on us. I feel like this could still move them to go work with US adversaries. And along with option number one, both of these options could choose that some country that could be allies with us into going and working with like a country, say Russia or China, where that's just another number bad towards them. Obviously, after reading some of the papers that we've done, China already is working with 2/3 of all the countries in the world. And I feel like any ally that the US can get now is, I mean, it's obviously going to be a positive. I feel like we need to have any country we can under our side. So I felt like option three, it helps the US businesses stay strong. So you're not making any US people mad about this, except for people who maybe believe that another country shouldn't be doing this. It doesn't harm any people in Berillia, so people there aren't going to hate Americans. And I feel like it's such a big thing worldwide that everyone hates Americans because they go in and they take what they want and they do all these things and use their military as brute force and they think they're the strongest. And I feel like that's not really a way that we should want the world to look at us. We shouldn't want the world to look at us like US juggernauts. And although we should have them know, okay, yes, we do have this big military, we don't want them thinking, okay, we can just go and use it whenever. I don't think anyone should want to be scared of the US, but I do also believe that they should know that, okay, we're here, we do have a strong military. So that's why I do see the other options. But after everything, I really do believe that option three has the most positives. I don't believe you should want to upset the government too much. I don't believe sending another country to go work with like China would be beneficial to the US. I feel like anybody that we can get to be on our side should be on our side. I mean, obviously, I also don't believe that sanctions really help at all. I believe that we've placed so many sanctions on countries and it really doesn't work. So, what's the point of doing much sanctions in the first place? We're not going to get a country to stop by not trading with them. They'll just go find someone else. So, I feel like it was kind of a no brainer for me in this situation. Well, it wasn't at first, but after I started reading it more,